make a move in the ring. You can hit me with a word you fling.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nick Atkin. This is South China Morning Post in Hong Kong, scmp.com/MMA. This is the post-fight podcast. Going to be breaking down UFC Fight Island 6 today. My guest is Chris Edwards-Bailey over in 3rd Street, 1 street up from me in 2nd Street in Southampton. Chris, what's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good, man. It's been a good day. The weather's nice, a bit cooler than it has been. No more typhoon, and excited for a big weekend of mixed martial arts.
Yes, sir, indeed. We have a huge main event on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi, the Korean Zombie against Brian Ortega. This is a fight that's a couple of years in the making, isn't it? They were meant to fight in Busan last December. Brian Ortega got a knee injury, pulled out, so Frankie Edgar stepped in. And then things just got even more crazy with Brian slapping Jay Park. I can't remember when or where it was. I think it's somewhere in Vegas or America.
Yeah.
The beef just escalated from there. Seems like they settled the beef. But that's going to play a part in this fight, isn't it, Chris? There is a lot of bad blood secretly.
There is a lot of bad blood between these two, and even if you just look at some of Ortega's interviews he's done before the fight, he said he's willing to let the bad blood go, but if it does reoccur, he's got a lot he actually wants to say. I think we're actually in for a barnstormer. We've got a Korean connection. We've got Ortega himself having a Korean trainer. We've got Koreans on all sides. We've got a Korean on the preliminary card. It's just a shame John Honko isn't here to be with us.
Yeah, we're missing our Korean, man.
This is an absolute sleeper card. I think this card is really going to deliver, and it's going to generally be a night of striking with one or two based on grappling. But apart from that, I think we're in for a lot of blood, a lot of crimson all over the place. And it's just a dead exciting fight.
Well, Dana White has basically confirmed this is the number one contender bout in featherweight division. Whoever wins this is Alex Volkanovski's next challenger, it looks like. So yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot, Chris. What's your pick? Who are you going for?
See, this is the hard part because this is such a hard fight. I mean, I've loved Ortega and I loved everything he did all the way up until the Holloway fight. But after that fight, he kind of got pieced apart. It left us with so many questions. He couldn't really touch Holloway or get close. He could get the odd really powerful shot in, but he could never really work a truly great combination. 2 years off, I do not know how good that can be to go against such a high level opposition. I mean, if this was another combat sport like kickboxing or Muay Thai or boxing, they probably would have given him a warm-up fight, but we know that's not how they operate in the UFC. He does hit hard, and he did KO Frankie Edgar much easier. Like, he KO'd Frankie Edgar while the Zombie kind of wore him down and then got the finish towards the end. But it's so hard because the thing is, Ortega does hit hard, but Zombie doesn't go down. He'll keep marching forward like a zombie, as he is called. I do have to agree with the Tapology odds. They probably are about right. Zombie is a slight favorite. Ortega is a slight underdog. I actually think as long as Zombie can keep it off the ground, I think he has a fantastic chance to win. He hits much smart. He hits more consistently and much harder. And if he does a smart fight and not give too much to Ortega, and he actually goes out from the very beginning and controls the rhythm of the fight, because that's something Ortega does like to do. He tried to do it against Holloway, and he tried in that very first round, but he could never really get the pace, dictate the pace, because Holloway was just marching him down. And Zombie is actually a very similar fighter. So I do have to say, John's gonna love me, actually. My Mexican friends are gonna hate me. I've got to go with Korean Zombie with a TKO in the 4th round, I believe.
4th round, wow. I think I predicted first round TKO for Zombie on the live show John did the other day with James Lynch. I'm going for Zombie as well. I don't know, there's something about him, man. I think that's an awesome fight, Zombie against Volkanovski as well.
Yeah, and it is that time, and we've been saying it over the last few years, the internationalization of the UFC, so it would be awesome to have another great Korean champ just to elevate everything, make it more international. Second Asian champion after Zhang Weili, which would be fantastic for the region. And I love Ortega, he's one of my favorite fighters, but I just don't see him getting through this. But then the thing is, Zombie, if he wins this, will probably have a very nice matchup against Volkanovski. Not that it will be easy, but it will be a very pleasing fight. And I can see the loser If it is Ortega, probably getting the beat, because I do not think he wants that smoke from Holloway again.
I don't think they were going to be in a rush to do that. Yeah. Just considering the damage he took in that fight, it was kind of scary, wasn't it? But it's 2 years ago. Do you think Brian Ortega is going to be rusty? Does ring rust play a part at all?
Yeah, I think ring rust can play a part. I think his inactivity can play a part. I mean, he's there without Hannah Gracie there, who unfortunately had a false negative, or I can't remember. He had a negative and then positive and a negative, so no one really knows what's going on. But the one thing he said, Hannah Gracie said, is, "You're lucky it's me, because you're jiu-jitsu, you're a black belt, I trust in you. I mean, if there's one person on the team you want to lose, it's me." You would have been much more concerned if it would have been a striking coach. To go back to that Holloway fight, it's one of the few title fights in recent memory where I've actually been stood there saying, it's time to end this fight, it's time to end this fight, time to protect the fighter, because he did take probably a round of damage that he really didn't have to take. And congratulations on the doctor for that stoppage. We should applaud the doctors for that. But yeah, I think we're in for an absolute barn buster for those 3 or 4 rounds before I think Zombie gets it done. The only issue is Zombie likes to ground and pound, which is a very easy way to get a submission. But the issue there is Ortega's ground game could come to the fore.
All right, why don't we move down the card? We've got the co-main event, Jessica Andrade against Katlyn Chookagian, flyweight bout. It looks like it could be another number 1 contender, or am I wrong again, Chris? What's going on here? Who are you picking?
Yeah. This is definitely a number 1 contender. Shevchenko's pretty much cleaned out the division. She's destroyed everyone who's come her way. And if Andrade can make the move up work, I mean, you do look at her body shape, and she already has a lot of mass on her. She hits bloody hard. I mean, you look at that fight against Rose, and I know she lost to Rose 2 rounds to 1, but Rose definitely took the most damage because Andrade hits hard. And no disrespect to men and women out there, but she's one of those female fighters that they say hits like a man, and you can definitely see it. Chookagian is good. She's got great striking, great with her hands, great with her feet, but she's just not on the same level. I mean, this is Andrade. She is a former champ, you know. She beat Namajunas. She's fought much, much better opposition. She's got buckets and buckets of power, strength, great ground game that's sometimes underappreciated. And I think the most interesting thing in this is the move upwards, and how does that power translate in the move up. And I think we are in for a really good fight. My only issue is I just don't think Chookagian's fought a striker of the class of Andrade. I mean, if you look at Andrade's recent fights, it's Zhang Weili, Rose twice. She's fought Joanna. She's fought the who's who of the division. While Chookagian got that title shot and never really did much with it. So if I had to choose something, I'm going to go with Andrade. Andrade doesn't generally knock people out and get finishes. So if I had to say something for this fight, I'd probably say Andrade. I actually think it'll be 30-27 across all 3 cards to Andrade, but without the knockout.
Yeah, a couple of things for me, basically. Andrade, the loss to Zhang Weili for me seems like a complete aberration, because it was crazy, wasn't it? And I think she said, you know, I don't know what the hell happened. She went and proved again in that Namajunas fight, the second one, the rematch. She's tough as nails. And, you know, that fight was close. I thought it wasn't, you know, completely dominant for Rose. But do you want to see Chookagian fight Shevchenko again, given I think it was pretty one-sided, that fight, wasn't it, man? Like, what happens if she wins? Does the UFC book that, or do they try and find another solution?
I think the UFC will book it, because I think as well then you get a really, really great opportunity to market their most marketable female, which is Zhang Weili. I'm sorry, Amanda Nunes, but China's just such a huge country. We are the South China Morning Post. We're going to big it up. She's my home girl. I was there in Shenzhen when she won. If Andrade, she doesn't have to beat Shevchenko. She has to win rounds. She has to show a good showing of herself, and that in itself would allow Zhang Weili to maybe go for the 2-weight championship if Andrade can make inroads with Shevchenko. Because the thing is, Shevchenko's style is a kickboxing style, and I mean, come on, Zhang Weili she's a national standard champion. She's a national standard champion. You cannot argue with those credentials, and it would be a barnstorming fight. It'd be great if we get it. Obviously, Zhang would probably have to get through Rose first. But then after that, if you beat Joanna, Rose, and Andrade, you've not cleaned out the division, but you've cleaned out the upper echelons, and then you can kind of let everyone fight it out and really see who is the number one contender while you go for the champ opportunity.
Okay, well, Jessica is the slight favorite according to the bookies in Vegas. Then we'll move on to our boy, Modestas Bukauskas against Jimmy Crute. You know a lot about Modestas. You keep a keen eye on Cage Warriors, I know, and the UK scene. So, yeah, what do you think of his chances against Jimmy here?
Yeah, this is actually just an absolutely fascinating fight. I think it's got fight of the night potential, definitely. You know what? If John was on, he'd be backing Zombie to the hill. Modestas, I know he's fighting under the Lithuanian flag. I know he's born there, but I think he's been in the UK since he was but a young boy. I mean, you've heard him speak. He's got an English accent. He is my boy.
Such a gentleman, isn't he?
Warrior champion. Jimmy Crute is a fantastic, fantastic fighter who has so much potential, but I just want it. I'm going to will it, and I want my boy Modestas to win. Crute, I mean, come through the Contender Series, won 3 out of his last 4. He's got a great ground game. That's where he does have a big advantage. But the thing is, you look at Modestas, and he is huge. He is one of those people who actually has the availability probably one day to go up in weight to heavyweight. Obviously, he's still only, 26 years old. So the way he's built, his hands and feet are so quick. He hits definitely harder. Everything he did in Cage Warriors, he was absolutely fantastic. And even his losses in Cage Warriors, one of them he just got caught. The other one was a bit of a dodgy decision. You know what? If I was out there and I'm going to tell people to gamble, which I'm not, I'd say probably bet on Jimmy Crute because the betting line does not favor me. Bukauskas is really in his second fight getting thrown in the deep end in the UFC with Jimmy Crute. But whoever comes up this is definitely on the edge, probably of top 15. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a rematch we could see 3 or 4 years down the line as they get closer to their primes, because I can see them both pulling into that top 15 anyway. And I'll tell you what, with John Jones moving out, with Reyes, with Blachowicz, with Yuri Prokocha, Rakic, this division is one of the most exciting. Hopefully we can get Gustafsson to come back down. I even mean, if Rumble goes again at heavyweight, I mean, DC could make one more run for the title. You never know.
Did you see what Rumble was saying to Paulo Costa on Instagram, I think it was?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can share it.
Yeah, it was pretty explicit, but you know, that's Rumble. Rumble can say that. I mean, he is a super heavyweight who can somehow cut down to ridiculous weights. He's got I mean, there's an argument to say that if you ever have a BMF title, if you ever have a weight cutting champion, it's probably got to be Rumble.
Well, I'm excited to see him back. But what about the rest of this card? Then we'll quickly go over the rest of the main card. Claudio Silva against James Kraus. Chris, give me your pick. Who are you going for here?
Well, Silva, he's 14-1. But as well, what we've got to remember is that one is in his first ever fight. So he has won 14 in a row. He's a great submission guy, black belt in jiu-jitsu from a great lineage. And I think he just has the superior ground game. But then on the other hand, we have Jimmy Kraus, who I actually think is the more talented fighter. But my issue is this is a late notice fight. And I always think when you've got a late notice who's a favorite, you've always got a potential opposite. I mean, his win over Trevor Giles was very, very controversial. I didn't score it that way. I have a little bit of problem with that. It's a bit odd to see him coming up to middleweight for this fight. He is the bigger fighter. And he has got the better stand-up, but I honestly think with the late notice, Silva being so good as he is on the ground, I think if it goes to the ground, I think Silva might be able to sub him. So I think this will be my, I guess with Bukauskas, this will be one of my 2 shocks of the night. But I do not expect fireworks in this fight. I think the Bukauskas-Crute match is going to be the fight of the night for me.
Okay, Thomas Almeida against Jonathan Martinez. Who you got here, Chris?
You know what? Almeida has the better record. He's done a lot more. He's a top prospect. He's won 3 of his last 4. He's only actually lost to Cody Garbrandt, Rob Font, and Jimmy Rivera, who are top fighters. But with his age profile, he is slightly on the way down. And my problem is, Jonathan Martinez is just one of those fighters. He's from Factory X. Factory X this year keep pulling out upset after upsets. I think they've had 5 or 6 upsets so far this year where they've been the underdog going into a fight and won it, which is, generally the favorites do win. He's a southpaw. He's got absolutely fantastic striking. And this is very much obviously they're very similar in age, but it's the miles they've done. It's the miles in the tank, the miles on the engine that I think might just give Martinez the opportunity to get a shock here. If I'm going to go for something, I'm going to go Martinez. If he can get a finish, I think he can surprise him early on. I think if we enter that third round, it most likely will be one apiece. And I think Almeida will be able to show a little bit more of that experience. And if it goes into the third round, I would say Almeida. So this is the toughest one of the night for me to call. This is the one where I really have no favorite. If I was going to choose one, I'm going to go Martinez. Factory X, they're just producing absolutely great talent.
Well, we haven't got John here to argue with you or provide any other picks. So anyone watching, Chris, you're next on the line here.
Yep.
You're gonna stand by. John had a horrible week. Not the last show. I think the show before. He got all of his main card picks wrong. So, Chris, this is serious business. Are you ready for the responsibility?
I'm not going to say I'm going to get them all right, but I'm going to get more than 0. Shout out to John Ronco.
Yeah, John, come back. I know you got the picks wrong, man, but we need you on this show, dude. Come on.
Yeah, man, it's an easy pick me up for me at the end of the week to beat someone. It's the easiest win of the week.
All right. What about the prelims then? Cherry pick a couple of fights for us that anyone who doesn't know which ones they should look out for. Which fights are you looking forward to on these prelims, man?
I'll give you one just purely on name. He's always been exciting. It's nice to see him back in the cage. The very first fight on the prelims, we've got Said Nurmagomedov. I think he's a cousin of the famous Khabib Nurmagomedov. So trains with him from Dagestan. And so we can understand the style we expect to see. And he's going against Mark Striegel, who's also a very, very popular fighter. Huge in Asia. Been out here doing business for years. But I think Said is probably just going to wrestle him down to the ground. Another one, a bit of a sleeper fight, and it's not actually going to be a top quality fight, but this is more of a possible cutting maybe for John Phillips. His 4 fights in the UFC have not done well. That fight against Chimaev, it was a really, really one-sided. He's only won 1 out of his 5 fights he's had in the UFC. So, this is going to be a real big barn burner. And I think if Jun Young Park can win this, I think it will catapult him. And if we see shows start happening in Korea, we might see a few more spots. I really think if John Phillips loses this, and I know he's one of my boys, big up the Swansea crew, he's one of my boys, but if he loses this, it's going to be a tough road back. And then, arguably, the biggest prospect outside of the main and co-main event on this card, we've got Mateusz Gamrot. Mateusz Gamrot, this is a former KSW champion. And I know I keep banging on about it. KSW is a legit organization. They do the biggest attendances in the world. They're by far the biggest in Eastern Europe. They're actually, talent-wise, probably bigger than Cage Warriors. They're probably the biggest in Europe because they're so big, not just in Poland, but in Eastern Europe. They've made a huge following in the Balkans. They sold out Wembley Arena pretty much just to Poles from all over the UK to come and see it. And this guy, I think, is going to really blow onto the scene. I expect a KO of the night, performance of the night. I expect some sort of bonus for Gamrot. And I think it's going to be first or second round because this is a really, really big change in class. Because to me, KSW, particularly for these higher weight classes, is probably third or fourth in the world, probably just after the UFC and Bellator for the higher weights, arguably equal with Bellator. So this is absolutely fantastic. This is going to be a great fight. We could have another Polish champion in the future. And it does show you that, particularly in these heavyweights, a little bit obviously with the Russians lower down, but particularly now at middleweight and light heavyweight, we are really starting to see a big Eastern Bloc come forward with great striking, but also with that wrestling that they've done since they were but a kid.
Yes, for anyone who didn't know, back on the John Phillips fight, Chris went to university in Swansea. I think that's correct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
he's
why
one of my
Swansea
boys,
crew.
That's it. Got to big up John Phillips. I think he is still training out of Swansea, but I know he does spend a lot of his time over with Coach Kavanagh at Street Blast.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, that's about it then. Unless you have any other fights you want to point out, Chris.
You know what? That's it. But as we've seen from the previous weeks, particularly in Fight Island, is it still the smaller cage? I don't know. I don't care. But we've had some really, really great prelim shows. We've had really great prelims. I mean, sometimes I watch the prelims half asleep in bed, and they've been waking me up every single time since we've been in Abu Dhabi.
Yes, man, it should be a good show. They always are, these Fight Island cards. And I think we need to cherish this one, Chris, because next weekend, I think it starts at 2 a.m. Hong Kong time. So this is the last one we get in the current run, which starts on nice early morning for us. Not that I'm complaining, but yes, if we're going to watch Khabib, we're going to be up till about 6 a.m. So
yeah, I think 6 a.m. will be the ring walk. The only good thing is for us over here in Asia is if you want to watch the early prelims or prelims, they're going to be prime time.
Yes, it feels like I'm back in England, though. I mean, when we used to watch UFC pay-per-views in England, it would finish at 5, 6, 7 a.m., you know.
Yeah, I remember once staying up to watch Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo, and we'd been drinking all night and having a good time. And I remember we were so tired waiting for the fight to actually start that by the time it ended, we all just looked at each other and laughed because we stayed up all night for about 7 seconds, 10 seconds of action.
I remember staying up for that one, and then I just fell asleep before, and I missed the actual main event. Yeah, classic, isn't it? Hopefully Khabib. I think the last fight against Poirier was the same time, and I managed to stay awake for that one.
It is nice to see them stacking the card though with European fighters next week and changing the time slot to accommodate the European market, because pretty much since the shutdown, every single fight has been accommodating American time zones. And I mean, there is a lot of talent, there is a lot of fans in Europe. Bellator just had the first ever show in France. They beat the UFC to it. So it is good for the fans over there. It is nice to see. And, one, have a bubble in Singapore. Maybe the UFC could do a show there. You never know. They've done swaps and trades in the past there. I know Dana doesn't speak so bad about Chatri as he does about Scott Coker and other people in the industry. So you never know. You never know. If they can't get Zhang Weili to fight in China, it might make more sense to get it to Singapore. You've got the time zone and everyone in China can watch it. If you put that stuff on CCTV, you're talking $500 million.
Sounds good, man. Well, Chris, you're going to be back here with me later tonight for the One Championship Reign of Dynasties live fight companion. I think, right? We're gonna watch the fights.
I would not miss it for the world.
Cool. That's what I like to hear. We're just gonna talk a bit of smack about the fights. We're gonna have a good time. Everyone who wants to watch, you can leave your comments, like and subscribe as always. Please join us. It's on Facebook and our YouTube, SCMP MMA. Thank you everyone for watching this, and we'll see you all again next time. Cheers.